white and silver in there.
I love it. It's magic. I didn't
Okay, welcome to the September 2021 meeting of the Decatur Historic Preservation Commission. I will call roll with each commission member answering present. John Allison, John Godwin, Rebecca Poole Burns,
Present.
Barbara Kelly, Lynn Schubert,
Present.
Bill Stone,
Here.
I'm Dodie Hall, and we have a quorum present. Dr. Swope is the city's preservation specialist. Thank you to everyone who's attending today. Your involvement in this commission's proceedings is vital to the effectiveness of this process. There is a copy of the agenda out front if you would like one. Historic district designation means your neighborhoods have been recognized by the United States government, the state of Alabama, and the city of Decatur as being architecturally or historically significant to our community. Historic districts are not created to prevent changes, but rather to ensure that the proposed changes are appropriate to the individual property and the districts as a whole. The Commission's responsibility is to review the appropriateness of all proposed changes. The Preservation Commission has written standards and regulations that guide our review and our decision-making. These guidelines and the Commission's decisions have the force of city ordinance. You can access our guidelines along with the application forms on the city's website. Our hearing process is as follows. First, staff, Caroline, will present the applications. When they read your name and property address, please be prepared to come to the podium. Staff will present the application and the staff assessment for each request. The staff assessment results from a review of the application from someone who exceeds federal qualifications as published in the Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 61. When staff is finished presenting the application item, the applicant and/or the designated representative will then state their name and address and provide any additional information or comments regarding that application item. The Commission may ask clarifying questions of the applicant at this time. Next, we will hear any public comments on that particular application item only. After public comment has closed, the Chair will entertain a motion and the Commission will discuss and dispense with that application item. Staff will then proceed to the next application item, and so forth. A certificate of appropriateness will be issued in the form of an email that CCs both the applicant and the building department approximately 1 week after this hearing. The document will outline and reaffirm what was approved and that the project has met the guidelines of the Commission. A COA must be issued before a building permit can be obtained. If any changes to your project are anticipated after the COA is issued, it is the responsibility of the homeowner to contact staff and she will help guide you. In some cases, you may be required to submit changes for review and the issuance of a new COA. If your project or a portion of is denied and you are not issued a COA, you will be issued a letter stating the reasons for denial. You may resubmit an application with revised plans for the next meeting. There's also an appeals process. After all the applications are heard, the Commission will entertain general comments from the public, and these are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Okay, so everybody had a chance to review the minutes from August. So can I have a motion?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. First COA, 310 Walnut, which is Ms. Barrett. This house is a contributing structure in the old Decatur district. It was built in 1940. It's one of our newer ones and is colonial revival in style. The action requested the homeowner would like to install a 3-foot tall salvaged cast iron fence on their side of the city sidewalk. No gate requested at this time. And to sort of show you on this, it would be going right here, obviously nothing over there, and then would continue down here. There's a driveway here, so it would not go onto that portion. The design review standards for the municipality for fencing within the district's cast iron and wooden picket fences are typically found along the principal street vantages,
Brick, chain link, wooden plank, and other wood fences are generally located at secondary vantages. Height, fences at the principal vantages shall be no more than 3 feet. Fences on readily visible secondary advantages should be no higher than 6 feet, and that's the rear and the sides, the rear sides. Cast iron fences are found throughout Decatur's historic districts and should be retained and repaired as necessary. New cast iron fences and historical designs are appropriate for the neighborhoods. Wood fences, the use of wood picket fences on principal elevations is appropriate. Fences of cedar or redwood construction are more rot resistant than other common woods and should be considered for new wooden fences. Other fences, use of chain link, wire, wood plank, vinyl, solid open or weave fences, brick along street vantages, not appropriate at principal, appropriate for secondary vantages, which is like the rear yards, unless they're continuing a historic one that has been there. Staff findings. The commission has historically approved 3-foot tall fences in the front of houses, and the standards support fences of this height in this location. And then I have a picture of the salvaged one. And it's leaning up against a tree, but I tried my best to kind of like scale it down and put it in the picture so you could see about what it would look like. I'm not entirely sure the scale's correct, but I think it's close. Any questions?
Can you tell me exactly where the fence is going?
It's gonna go from the brick wall to the front side
Oh,
wall,
and the other to the,
and then from the
Right.
front side.
because I'm looking at your house and that wall is gone.
Yes, that's an old picture.
Yeah, thank goodness. But, Okay.
But from the brick wall to the sidewalk that goes to the front door, and then from that sidewalk almost to the driveway. I have a rock sidewalk there now. So almost to that. Almost to the driveway.
Questions, comments?
move we approve.
We have a motion to approve. Second. All in favor?
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will get you your signed COA within a couple of days, and I CC the building department so that they have it on file too. All right, thank you.
What'd you find?
In Texas. A friend of mine picked it up for me. It was on the other side of Dallas. And I ended up spending 4 days helping that person.
Got more?
Yeah, you're not careful, he's gonna have you running a side business on it. Yeah, so. On the agenda next was Mr. Duper, and he has the house at 421 6th Avenue in Albany, but he could not make it tonight, so he's asked that we move him to the October agenda. So he will be in on October. So COA 3, and it's actually COA 4 because it's two separate ones. 506 Canal Street with Mr. and Mrs. Marsh. This is an old Decatur. The house is contributing within the district. So staff received notification on the afternoon of August 11th that a driveway pour was occurring between 506 and 510 Canal. When I arrived, the concrete pour was complete. I did talk with the pouring company, and they have been around for quite some time, and they knew all the procedures. They knew like every department, every procedure, but they were unaware that they needed a COA for concrete pours within the district. The owner was not home at this time. There had originally been a shared gravel driveway on site. There is a neighboring house. You see they're very tight, each with their own garage. August 15th, I returned to see there were fence posts, there we go, set. They actually came a little further down in the driveway. And I issued a stop work order, and then I met with Ms. Arsh, the owner on site. She was unaware of the HPC review for the driveway and had explained some of the challenges with the shared driveway, which obviously shared driveways are not a lot of fun. And immediately started the paperwork to bring the fence into compliance because the fence posts were very far out in the yard, and I sort of explained to her what the standards were the commission worked with for fences. She's also had a meeting with the director of community development twice to ensure the paperwork was filled out correctly. And so I requested 2 COA applications, one for the driveway and one for the fence, to make it easier to make motions and to keep things more clear. So the driveway for this house and the one next door have historically been shared, but the majority of the driveway is on this site. And the new owners next door, and the house was in the process of being sold at this time, and the new owners next door, they had hoped to be here tonight with their own COA, but it didn't close quite in time for them to get the application in. So you will actually meet them next month, and they would like a concrete pour on their side. They're gonna have to extend it, move some of the shrubbery back to get a wide enough space, because right now they literally do not have a wide enough space to pull in. We'll talk about the fence next. I'm gonna focus on the driveway. Design review standards. We don't separately have one for driveways. It's called out for parking areas. And the standards indicate, when possible, they want landscaping as a part of screening. The commission has approved placing existing driveways with poured concrete, but most of the existing driveways that I could find had been dirt, essentially. Like, we haven't actually had one that was gravel that was replaced. That was what I spent the last few days sort of digging. I went back and dug up all the old photos and started zooming in to see. What I could find on this is, when you're looking at historic precedent, this is not the same as a new driveway, because the driveway was already existing. So at this point, it's a material change. The commission has always approved going to concrete when requested. The commission has historically asked for aggregate, but that has been for new driveways going in, and this is a case of a historic gravel going to concrete. So then I talked to some colleagues of mine as we were sort of trying to work through this interesting change, and we talked a lot about color and sight lines, and historically the color of this particular driveway, which is somewhat atypical from the rest of the district, is actually gray. It's a lot of gray. Now the new driveway is white. It will tone back down to gray. It takes it a while, but it will start to tone down. I think it's because algae or something grows in it. I'm not entirely sure how the process works, but I know if you hit an old driveway with power washer, all of a sudden it becomes white, but you get stuff that goes back on it. So in this particular case, because we already had an existing gray driveway, we just now have a bigger, more solid, existing, soon-to-be gray driveway. I did, when I talked to the new owners, and they wanted me to relay to the commission that they were very supportive of this applicant's driveway, and of course they want one, and the discussion I had with them was this portion here between the two, because there will be a gap between the two, maybe 6 inches, maybe 8 inches. I don't know if I've got any. Yeah, they haven't poured one yet, so I don't really have anything to show you, but the new pour is not going to be in here. They're not going to be touching. There's going to be, because she has to put fence posts in, so there's going to be a gap. And that
Even
is,
in the front?
huh?
Are you going to continue the gap into the front?
I
Are you gonna have
don't
gravel or
know
weed
in the
issue?
front. That's something that will be discussed with the next applicants, because this driveway pour is done. But there will be, and so the question they had sort of talked to me about was, well, maybe filling it with mondo grass or something green and low to give a little bit, as opposed to gravel, or then weeds would come up, but at least that little bit of dividing
Yeah, would make a huge difference.
would make a difference. That was not in this particular application, but the commission can certainly discuss that if they wish. Let me see if I've got any.
I don't know,
That's
so
more.
who's, yeah. So what I'm envisioning is there are two houses on Gordon that have this same situation but worse because the driveways are wider and it's just this huge expanse of concrete and it looks awful.
Yeah.
But as far as asking for a little strip of mondo grass or some sort of landscaping, where does that responsibility fall? Does it fall with these homeowners or does it fall with the guys that are gonna come next month?
I think you can, I don't think I have a copy. Let me see, I might have a copy of the survey on me. I have a lot of files on this property.
I mean, it looks to me,
It's a property line.
if you've got a fence back there, which is gonna be back,
Yeah,
that if they put the fence on the property line, that that would be in their property. And I guess my
Yeah.
question is, are you going to allow them to do that?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, we don't have any,
Well, the
Fussing.
fences, they're the ones with the fence application, that's second.
right, I understand, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out on the driveway, you know, whose property is it? And, you know, if they get an agreement on who's going to plant the mondo grass,
Yeah.
if it's on their property, is there gonna be an issue with that?
We wouldn't have any problem planting it, or if
Okay.
they chose to plant it. We've talked with them, and they're very nice people, and we won't have any issues.
Okay.
I would say in this particular case, particularly given that the commission does have driveways from time to time, before the motion is made, there's very clear on the record why that motion is being made in terms of what the conditions are that have lined it up. So that way it's very clear for future ones why a solid concrete pour in this case, as opposed to a new driveway that, or replacement driveway that might require aggregate, because there was aggregate there. We had at least 2 replacement driveways that aggregate was required for, but aggregate was already on the driveway that was there before. So I would make sure that that is clear, that I can get that in the minutes, whichever direction the commission goes, so it's clear with the motion.
so the motion to approve needs to include,
The motion doesn't include it, but the discussion on why the commission, where the commission is going with their
why
rationale.
they would approve it.
Yeah,
We
And-
approved,
and-
we have not before,
Right,
we insisted on aggregate.
yeah, what it is, because
The
one of the
color.
things that historically comes up is, yes, we have standards, but each house is different, each style is different, each residence is different, and so if in this case, the standards are being interpreted in a very specific way due to the historic nature of this house, it is helpful to have that in the record, so that when I go digging for the next case, I'm like, oh, well, this one fits over here because of this, and this one fits here, so that I can pull that legal record through.
I think it's better that they match, so that would take care of the retro
Right.
and the new.
right. And the historical precedence is there for the color.
Agreed.
Okay, any further discussion? How do we take care of the mondo or the whatever?
I think I've got it on record that both property owners will ensure that it,
A strip of
There's
something there.
something-
Y'all don't want a massive concrete
Yeah.
pad out there either way.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's something where there is a break, it will not be filled with gravel or Jackson vine or weeds, yeah, that the mondo grass will be there.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that COA is finished, and we will move on to the fence. And I realized after I loaded this, my PowerPoint PowerPoint does not have this image on it, although. I do have it here. This computer and I do not get along. Every time it wants to enlarge this. It doesn't want me to ever. Go. Let's try that. So, on the fence, when I first made a site visit with the stop work order, the fence went much further down into the yard. Some of those posts have since been removed. So the applicant would like a fence, and this is finished side facing out. So the structural side will face into the interior, that runs very close to the property line to the north and turns to intersect at the front corner of the house. So not the porch, but the physical house. The porch is set back. A double gate so that they can pull a car through would be located along the front. So they would have the ability to open that gate and then drive the car in and pull the gate behind them. The material wood, the height 6 foot from the rear of the lot at the back corner, and then drops to approximately 5'3" at the front of the lot. The style is arched with Gothic posts. The Cater Design Review Standards are for fencing, HPC policy and recommendations. Within the district's cast iron and wooden picket fences are typically found along principal street vantages. Brick, chain link, wood plank, and other wood fences are located at secondary street vantages. Height, fences at principal street vantages should be no higher than 3 feet. Fences on readily visible secondary vantages should be no higher than 6. And the commission has historically looked at secondary vantages from starting around the midpoint of the house on the side to the rear. Wood fences, the use of wooden fences on principal elevations is appropriate. Fences of cedar or redwood construction are more rot resistant and should be considered for new fences. Other fences, chain link, wire, wood, plank, vinyl, solid brick, open weave is not appropriate at principal street vantage. The use is for secondary. Staff findings, the commission has typically followed design review standards closely on this that required fences beyond the approximate midpoint of the main house to drop to 3 feet or less. For recent precedent, the commission has not approved requests for 6 foot tall fences beyond the middle section of the house, 510 Walnut, 619 Johnston, the most recent ones. The commission has historically wanted front fences that adjoin to have the same plane. So when you look at the two together, if they both want a front fence, if the midpoint of this house throws a fence into a window, obviously the commission has to work with that to adjust that plane a little bit, because there would be one continuous row and each house has a slightly different setback. Let's see. There were some photos submitted that I gave you in the packet from different applications. I was unable to locate precedent for an approved COA for a fence taller than 3 feet past the midpoint of the house. And the commission does approve fences, as you just saw with the prior one, that are 3 feet in the front. So that whole section, we've had a lot in that range. And that is what I was able to find.
So the proposal is to merely drop it to 5.3 feet, which will be running across the front of the house.
Actually, the
Okay.
gate would be arched.
But that being right there on the front of the house, I think we're kind of stuck with the 3 feet, right? As close as it is, I mean, as far up as it is, it's even with the house. So, and I don't know how Caroline, do they approve, all right, if we limit that to 3 feet,
Mhm.
would halfway down, need to jig there, or?
It would jog, and we have, I'm trying to think, I know we had one that jogged, and I'm trying to remember who it was. We had one in the last couple of years where they did run it, but they dropped it down. There might be one on, oh, that's an older one. I know we've dealt with one. But, either to drop that fence around the midpoint, or if they want that height, so then push the
Push it
height back. So there's 2 ways to sort of work through this design.
I don't think there's a formula as far as it's always half point. Sometimes it's because of here's where a window
Well,
is.
yeah,
here's
it's
where-
approximately the half point of the main facade of the house, and then after you get to that point, you start looking, and if there's, where the window fenestration is, or is there an HVAC unit? We moved one recently on Grant Street because there was a basement access panel that we wanted understandably behind the fence and not in the front of the fence. With these 2 houses, so the approximate midpoint on this, historically, the commission would say, okay, somewhere in here, right? That's kind of, now what you then would have to look at, okay, what is it for this house? This is as far away as I could get. The light was not cooperating. In this house, it would be somewhere in this range. Now, obviously, it's not going to be here because you've got a window here. And you also have a gas connection here that they have to watch for. So it would be either in this area, or it would be in this area right behind the gutter. And so this is actually going to be the driver a little bit more, because with that gas connection, that's, where and the window. So they have more limited real estate to work with. And obviously you're not going to run it here because you have an HVAC unit. So if we go, so that's going to push it, I don't know, it's looking like close. We have to do a field measurement, but it's looking like somewhere between not the very first post, but between the second and third post is what it's looking like. Because this house actually sits forward a little bit. They're at different levels. So what's going to be further back on the Peach House, further front on the Peach House is going to be further back on the brick house, just because of the way they're sited on the lots. So it will take some field. The commission gives like the approximate range, and it's within this range, and then we have to go field verify, because we'll have to actually measure both of them out. Because the other applicants, obviously, they want a gate as well.
Well, I guess let me ask the homeowner, if the commission does not approve a 6-foot front fence where you've got it right now, and would only approve a 3-foot fence, would you rather drop it down midway and come forward with 3 feet with the gate, or would you rather move it back to where you could have a 6-foot fence
With the gate there.
with the gate there?
I guess the question becomes then, how far back are we talking about if we're going back? We've seen precedent, I've got pictures of some other homes in Albany as well as Old Decatur that have fences that are at least 6 feet tall, that appear to be 6 feet tall. I haven't measured them, actually. But there is view from the street vantage. And so in lieu of, there have been some concerns as far as security is concerned, with respect to some car break-ins and things like that in the neighborhood, where it was important to us to have a 5-foot swing-open gate to protect the cars within the driveway. And with it being an arched gate at that height, it would also complement the side of the fence that's running 57 feet. We would rather not drop it back any, because of the length of the driveway. If you think about the length of 2 vehicles, there's a sport van, minivan there that is longer than the average car. house, at the back corner of the house. So we're somewhat limited on the space that we have to park the vehicles, both vehicles together. So that is something else that we want to definitely take into consideration and share with the commission.
May I say something too? However, whatever your regulations are, we'll be willing to follow that.
Well, I think the guidelines are pretty clear that it can't be higher than 3 feet in the front. And we have had so many decisions in the last 3 years that I'm aware of that have required people to push that 6 feet height back to either midway or further than that. So I think that there's gonna have to be some compromise where you're either gonna have to come down to the 3 foot height in the front, or push back and have the gate, you know, that you're envisioning further back.
If I hear Mr. Marsh correctly, he's saying, you know, he's just curious as to how far back.
With the cars.
And, you know, that's one thing I was kind of coming up with. I didn't understand, you know, we say midpoint, but it's, you know, there's a little give there. So I
Right.
don't know. I mean, I haven't really seriously looked at the, you know, measured it, how much.
There the standards are. It's actually illustrated in the standards. Oh, come on. I mean, we've got, doesn't want to come down. I'm not touching it anymore. I'm not gonna take it down further, but that's how it's actually illustrated. This is one of our standards that actually does have illustrations with it. So they're showing it pretty much dead center. And the commission says, okay, that's our start point, but obviously if there's a window right in the middle, we're not, you know, there's some, or if there's, I know we have done adjustments for HVAC. I remember a crawl space, a tree. We had one once where we did some adjustment for a tree. And this particular one, you know, that's gonna be the center, so it's somewhere in this range here. And then obviously, you know, if it runs from somewhere in here straight across to the neighbors and then it happens to land right in the middle of the neighbor's HVAC, then there'd be a little more adjustment, you know.
Is the whole thing about the abutting fences jogging, is that also in the design review? Design standards?
You mean two
Where
on the
two,
front?
yeah.
The commission historically has, particularly when we've got two coming at the same time, and we did have one a year or two ago where two came in adjacent, and the commission's like, yeah, I mean, you don't want this jar, particularly because, I mean, they historically had a shared driveway, so you have this odd space that historically was this, you know, you walk through this space and it's a certain flow, and they're trying to keep this flow. And we do look at that when we have other fences. That is something I have heard the commission ask me to research before. So it sort of, it just gives them, you know, they have a range. So the ruling would essentially be, you know, between these two, if they're going for the height. And that's one where, you know, it can be worked out on site between both parties, or bring it right up to the front if they want the lower height. And you can certainly, and you can make a ruling that allows for either, which gives them the option to then go out there and maybe put some stakes out and make
Do
a
the
decision
measuring.
on what they really think is best.
Yeah.
So they can put the cars out and see where it lines up. And
But what's further on? You say is there a backyard behind where your car is parked here?
Yes, in front of the vehicle there, what you cannot see in this photograph, well, you can see it better there.
There's a
Where the gentleman
garage.
is towards the rear of the home, well, I guess you can see it's kind of in front of that second window. You can see the corner of the house in this picture, okay. So if you imagine the corner of our house going across, that's where the end of the driveway is. So the driveway
So it doesn't
is not
connect to the
extended all
garage?
way.
It doesn't connect to the garage?
It does not.
Could it? If you decided you wanted a higher fence, and the commission says it's gotta go somewhere in that middle, adjusted with your neighbor, Could you do that? Connect it to the garage, I mean, I haven't seen your backyard, I don't know, and what, you know, but I'm saying you do have a garage back there, so, there would be some extra space if you wanted the higher fence.
The reason the contractor didn't pave all the way to the garage, because he said, he sensed that it may cause some flooding, and that's the reason he didn't go all the way, over the grass.
What my wife is saying is, behind the driveway there, where it ends at the back corner of the home, of course, there's a grassy area, with some gravel stone intermingled within that area, but it's also a slope. And the slope is mild, but yet it's still a slope, and it's sloping towards the driveway. And so, not driveway, the garage, I'm trying to say. And so, the contractor is concerned about running a concrete driveway all the way to the garage because of potential flooding into the garage,
Right.
because of the way that the yard is.
Could you, or are you willing to park on the gravel? I'm just trying, if you decide you want the higher fence for security purposes, I don't know that the commission can approve 6 feet right on the front of your house, or will approve, you know, I'm not,
No, we understand.
but I'm saying, you know, could you do that? I'm trying to say, would that work? And then further on back, you'd have your 6 feet.
Well,
And that way you don't have a total slide, you've got grass and gravel to kind of prevent wash off or some, you know.
I wonder if was that a gravel driveway that went all the way back at one time, do you think?
that is correct.
Okay. So that was gravel that went all the way back from the,
Right.
So how far back are we talking about moving the post? Dropping one post off the front, or?
Can we, Carolyn, can we say, you know, we either do this or this, and then come out and figure out exactly where we're talking about, you know,
we
where their
can.
windows are,
So you can,
where the windows are across, you know,
you
the other
can make
person.
a motion to amend the application to give them two options, that they can select one of the two, to run a 3-foot tall fence from the approximate, I'll come back to this, the approximate midpoint, to then wrap to that front, or to run a 6-foot that would stop at the approximate midpoint. The midpoint on this is going to be between these two windows. It
I
will be
can't see the-
somewhere
Which two, the?
in here.
The smaller one in the back, larger one?
Yeah, these,
Okay, I
right
can't see
here,
the
these two.
plan.
And I'm assuming is, that
It looks like
this-
a crawl space. Actually.
Yeah, so you're obviously not gonna drop a post right there, because
Yeah.
you have a, this is why we give sort of a range. So I don't know if I've got a picture that shows, and it obviously is, well, let's see if I can zoom in on
hard to
this.
tell whether that's underneath that small window or,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's in that mid-section, so,
Well, yeah, the shorter, the smaller window.
Yeah.
Where in relation to that? And they would obviously want it in front of that, and you're saying,
well, no, because I mean, this is sort of, you know,
Be
right in
behind
here
it.
now, because they've already got, I'm assuming this is an access panel right here for your base, your crawl space? Okay, so, you know, you're not gonna put a fence post right in the middle of their access, but regardless of the size of fence, they're not gonna put a post in the middle of their access panel because they need to get in there. So, somewhere in this range here. Now I am
Then-
wondering,
I think that if it's gonna go 6 feet, I would say
sorry, I'm trying to
that
zoom in.
option
Well-
number 1 is to put the post there, keep it at 6 feet.
And we could let Caroline,
And then we can
Go
do
out
is
and
we
say,
can,
"All right,
we
here's
can
where we're
stake it
proposing,"
out, we can
before you
work with the
decided what it
neighbors.
was you were gonna
Yeah,
do.
we can work with the neighbors and
Yeah.
run that all the way
yeah, to
across.
see.
Because, you know, if that hits in the middle of the neighbor's crawl space, like if it works for them, but then it's in the middle of the neighbor's crawl space, then we're gonna, okay, we might have to wiggle it a little more.
Yeah.
But to make sure that both homes where those posts would land would be good. But this gives, you know, a couple feet of wiggle room to adjust as needed with site conditions.
And then option 2 would be to come
Right
where
here.
the last post is and drop it down to 3.
Yeah, it would drop down to 3 somewhere in here, so somewhere over in here, it would go from 6 feet, drop to 3, and then wrap right here onto that front post at 3.
I'd like to comment on that last comment, thank you. And by the way, I do apologize that we did not come before the commission, first of all, regarding this. But, as my wife and I are just thinking about this, it seems to me that the best solution would be to drop down at whichever point, 2-3 feet,
Yeah.
and then have the arch gate there at 3 feet on both sides, the swings open. And I think that will give a solution as far as the parking arrangement with the 2 vehicles and not having to go beyond
Okay.
uh, any additional gravel.
I mean, my proposal, I guess, is if we could amend the COA to give you those 2 choices. Because if you decide that that's not gonna work and somebody can take a leaping run and jump over 3 feet of fence and get back there, and you decide that, no, you want the higher fence, and you don't have to come back in front of us. Would that work better?
Okay, we're fine.
And then, as I said, that 6 foot, we'd have Caroline come out and tell you exactly, sort of where we're looking at it
Yeah,
in connection with the neighbor. And if it's not acceptable, then we would have approved the 3 feet in the front. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
It makes a lot of
So,
sense.
what
I
I'm
make a motion. Help me out here.
It's Emily, you're on call on this. So it is to amend the COA for 2 possible routes. The first is based on the existing posts that they have on site. I'm looking to make sure I've got the right picture. Did I manage to erase a picture by mistake? This is the way my day is going, y'all. I think I actually did. I was sitting here. I know I just zoomed out so far, you can't see it. No, I'm not seeing it. So where the posts are, so to amend it so that it's 3 feet starting at the mid-center between those 2 windows that wraps to that front corner where the posts are now. That's the first option.
Right.
The second option is the entire thing can be 6 feet, but it has to stop in that middle section between those 2 center windows and wraps there.
Exact point to be
The
determined.
exact point
quote.
determined
So you've got
based
an
on
option.
where it lays on the neighbors, so that there's one smooth line. Is that correct? Is that giving all the data that needs to be in there?
Can I just say what she said?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that actually
She
explains
said
it,
my
yes,
motion.
it is, because it is an amendment with 2 options to, on how the homeowners want to, depending on how it turns out, how y'all want to do it. I'm gonna get the measure and all that.
So moved.
And the design is okay.
The
The design of the gates, we're good on that.
I did not see that on the Dropbox thing. Can you show that to me? And you mentioned in here that there were 2 options on the
Where is it?
boarding.
Hold on.
Did you see it?
I think I saw it on Dropbox.
No, that's not it. Fence. Not loading. That's all right. Trust me, I've got the original in here if it doesn't want to load. So
You see, I did not see it in the application.
Gallet.
Dropbox.
do you have one on you? No, I'm looking for the photo that she gave me. Sorry. Yeah, that had the sample. It's similar to others that have been approved within the district. It's a standard. Sorry, I have a lot
And
of
I'm sorry,
photos
what's on that?
on this particular property.
I can see the post, but I don't.
But the posts that are already on there that were installed are Gothic. And there's a lot of those in the district, so that's standard. And then it's a plank. cedar. How is it possible that I literally have every other piece of
Say it was
documentation?
arched. Okay. One
Yeah, it's an
arch,
arch.
like
Between
that
each
would-
post.
So really, yeah, the fence contractor said it would actually be, because they're ours, it would actually be like 5, 6.
At that low end.
I'm not finding it unless it is buried.
Of course, if you
And all
opt for the lower, it would be the same sort of design, but just lower.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that is a design
that's
that
pretty
we see.
clear.
Yeah, it's a design that we've seen in other
But
houses in
if
the
you're, I
district.
mean, if you've seen it and,
I've seen it,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We have a lot of, we have
Well,
some
then
arches
why
and then we
not?
have some that are the
Right.
scallops, and then
Right.
we've had straight fences, so that the only unusual fence design we've had is the one that was on, was it Sherman with the horizontal boards? That's the only
Yeah.
atypical fence design we've had since
it
I've
was
been here.
short and behind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so this was in line with others that have been approved.
Okay, then I'm okay
Yeah.
with the design.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? All right, we good?
Good.
Okay. I will get back with both parties, if not tomorrow, start of the week with the COAs. I'm gonna reach out to your neighbors. They've already submitted theirs, but I wanna let them know what the options are. And then I'll set up a time where I can meet up with both of y'all and we can get a measure out and figure out where you want it and which one you want. And then we'll get that COA issued. So I'll go ahead and issue the driveway one, because that one's finished. The fence one we'll work on in the next week or so. It's supposed to be good weather next week, so I don't think we have to worry about rain, so we can figure it out then, so.
Thank y'all. I think one of the things I need to add to my little speech is that when applicants are done, they're free to leave. They don't have to
That's
stay.
true.
And
You should
go
ask
through all the rest of this
It's
stuff.
riveting stuff.
Y'all
but
are
you have
welcome,
to
y'all are
stay.
welcome to study. You don't have to. You don't have to.
See, again, concrete, you'll rot off. They'll rot in about 10 years. Yeah. If you get, any way you can tap the dirt back in around them, it's a whole lot better than concrete. Put the dirt back in around them. If you can dig out some, and put the post in and tap the dirt back in around them. That lime and the concrete will just eat them up.
Well, aren't there some
It'll take 10 years.
that, she said there's some,
That's why you see fences leaning over like this, you know?
Bill's our materials expert. He used to own Stone Lumber.
I remember that.
And he does, the two comments,
Matter of fact, when I saw Stone, I told him, I said,
and he will, his two sore spots are fences and concrete, and my personal favorite, yeah, is skylights, because he will ask you if you have a skylight, did you put the kind in that leaks now or the kind that leaks later? That is his constant question with skylights. And of course, I think, well, my last house, I put 5 in, but somebody else owns those now, so, but yes.
Not your problem.
Not my problem anymore. But yes, those are his two. I hear those comments a lot, so.
Well, welcome to the neighborhood.
well, they've been here a while.
Well, they've been here a while.
Yeah, the next one's coming.
Oh, the other guys are moving in.
The other guys.
Y'all are getting new neighbors.
yes, you're so sweet. I just love it.
Good.
Good.
We just clicked just like that.
Oh, there's the picture that vanished that had the fence posts on it. So yes, there they are. So they're Gothic. They come in at the top. Okay, yeah, there's another view of them.
Okay.
Okay, so compliance, we're on to staff updates. Bank Street Old Decatur resurvey.
Thank
I
y'all.
have the drafts in on that. They have come in. It's not the final project, but it's the draft. So I'll be working through that. I'm working with the state on that. Grant updates, I have signed grant agreements for all 4 for this year. The window workshop was a success. We had multiple contractors there, which is really
Fabulous.
good. Not as many, we had a lot of RSVPs and then a number of people didn't show, which is always unfortunate, but it ran till 4 o'clock. So from 8 a.m. till 4 with an hour break for lunch. And we even had, let's see, Dane's not here, but we had our new director of economic development came with his daughter and they glazed windows. for him.
Fabulous.
They're
So,
right.
yeah,
They're in our neighborhood.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I think that's him, yeah.
yeah,
Maybe online.
it is. So out of our grants for this fiscal year, we've already filled out one and I'm getting ready to send out RFPs for the next 3. The Princess Theater has an easement with the state, a facade easement, and it has for several decades. The state is now checking facade easements, so they are sending.
What does that mean?
That means the exterior of the Princess is under an extreme design review by the state. So even though it is not design reviewed by us, the state,
Okay.
literally the state owns the exterior of the Princess. They own the visuals, the
I think,
easement.
so it's kind of like a conservation easement.
Yeah, it's similar to a
That, you know,
conservation
if
easement.
If you've got a conservation easement on your property, there's a limit to what you can do with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is the entire envelope. So they will be inspecting the roof, they will be inspecting the windows, the walls, because the part
Did
of
they
that.
fix it?
No, the city.
They just own it?
No, the city,
They just
the
control it.
easement is the city legally has to maintain the building. That is what the easement calls out. It's, because you can't have an easement and then let it demolition by neglect. Like, that's not, if you have an easement, once you entered into that contract, it also has to be maintained, and it has to be maintained to SOI standards. That is, because it is, so they have not been checking easements for some time, but they have a new staff person. And with that new staff person, they are now starting to check easements around the state. So
So what happens if they find that it's not in good shape and needs work?
They will send a letter outlining what needs to occur.
And then the city has to pay for it?
The city has to do the work on it anyway, because the city is a city-owned building. But yes, if they find that but it's already got some money from the state to do window repair. So, and I of course applied for stucco and for some other stuff, so.
So when all that marquee business happened, did that have to be approved by
Which marquee business?
when it was
They
changed over
replaced
to
it with
electronic
the
2 years ago,
electronic.
3 years ago?
No, the city did not notify the state.
Oh.
It was
Okay.
done, the city did not have a COA. There you go, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, then with compliance updates, 217 Church Street, you are familiar with this one. Second letters have been sent out. The third step on this is a court summons. 714 Line Street. This one, I don't know if you're as familiar with, this one had stop work order placed on it because we had 2 of the 4 columns rotting, and the way they addressed it was just to build little boxes around them to hide the rot. And I assume that was what fixed it, but it wasn't matching, so then they just boxed them off on those 2. So the second set of letters have gone out for this one as well. 414, that's 411, sorry, I have the wrong, it should be 411 Walnut Street.
Mr. Kennedy.
So this was the first stop work order. Then they continued. This is the second stop work order. At the time of the third stop work order, it was here. Since the third stop work order, these have been moved into place, and that actually sort of shows you, but current condition, these have now been added. So, and they're
Have you not
large.
been by it?
I mean, you can see they're up against a truck.
Look at that.
So they had been sent the initial letter in June, certified letter that went out saying the COA had been denied.
So do we think this was the plan all along, or is this something?
This
he
was
just
never
came up-
shown in
he
any
just
application.
did
It
this
just
after
showed up.
all this
No.
controversy?
In the email you may have seen, I described what I thought it was.
Yes, so,
Which I won't say in public.
Yeah, right.
this
Now I
is,
see what
so we received a letter back from the post office that it was undeliverable, but the post office tried multiple times, so it has been in the postal system for a couple months.
You might try the other address.
We have to do the address on file legally.
And you post it to the door?
And it is the
If there's-
address that they listed
Can you
also
post
on
it
their
to the
COA.
door?
I sent them an email.
If-
Both
if-
email
I mean,
addresses.
I can turn down a certified
Yeah.
one, I can not accept it and this kind of stuff, so
Yeah.
it may never reach me.
Yeah.
But is there some way
Well,
to post it on the house?
Yeah, we could do it. Yeah, I've nailed, yes, we've
this
had
case, I'm
things
okay
nailed
with it.
on the house before. So that is where this one currently is. For tax credits, I have four new potential ones because I'm gonna be busy through the holidays. Possibly the Burleson McIntyre Mansion over on the water, that house.
Oh.
Now, that one may not qualify because they want to make it part of a potential hotel with like multiple builds with it. And it might be, the state and feds might say, that's wonderful, we're glad you're gonna save the house, but you're adding too much to the site at this point for it to keep its historic integrity. So I'm waiting to hear back from the state what they advise on that one. Then I've had multiple investors contact me about the Skykes building on Bank Street, so more than one. And
Sykes?
Sykes, sorry,
Sykes,
Sykes.
where's Sykes place is.
I think I put a K in there by mistake. I need to change the spelling.
It's for sale?
I believe it is, because I've had,
Sykes?
yeah.
Is that-
And then this morning I met with someone on the Wykers building, which is not listed as contributing because it has had way too many changes. But we have really good historic photos of the facade, and so the question they asked me is if I want to take it back to what it was, could I get tax credits for that? Now, out of all the projects I've worked, I'm aware that I believe that does exist as an option, but I've never actually seen it. So I don't know what the standards are. It might be one of those theoretically, but you have to have tremendous
But
documentation.
this is a state, or is this a federal
Both.
standard? Okay.
Well, it's
'Cause
a
I've
federal.
seen it done in Washington DC.
Well, it's a
but-
federal standard, but it's tax credit. If they want
Yeah.
tax credits for it, it's not can you make the building look kind of old. It's does it meet the standards to
Yeah.
get that federal tax credit?
It would have to.
Is it still
be pretty
there
exact.
under something?
Well,
Or-
no, I think they might even be able to do a reconstruction and what I've asked the state, and I'm waiting to hear back, is what is the level of documentation that you require if they want to go down this road? You know, do you say we can only do it if they're measured drawings and you don't have them and you're out of luck? Or do they say, oh, we need X number of photos, X number of views? We've got really good images of the second floor. The first floor, it's a little grainier because a lot of the historic images have parades on the street. That's why we have these images. So you'll have
Awnings,
all these people and then
Yeah.
like a little bit of glass in the background.
Yeah.
So I'm still waiting. I have sent out query for both Burleson and the Rikers building.
I haven't really dug
on that.
into our collections, but we may have a better photo somewhere of
Yeah,
that building.
and I'll sort of see, because that would be fantastic, because right now it's listed as non-contributing within the district. That would actually pull it back in, which would be huge, and it's a big building.
Yeah.
I mean, it's multiple storefronts.
Now, they're not talking about doing that with the Sykes building, are they?
Well, the Sykes building, the feds would likely, I don't know on that one as much, because
Because of the
it is
glass.
listed as contributing right now with that Carrera glass. So the feds would probably say no, because you'd be destroying your Carrera glass that was added, and it has all of the vintage windows on the side. And apparently the vintage windows that were ripped off the front are still in the building. So they could get rid of those vinyl windows and put the steel windows back that came in the early 20th century.
The vintage, the last generation, not the initial generation.
Yeah, because that
Because it
building,
was originally a very ornate.
it was very ornate,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you know, if you remember, SOI standards are very clear about changes that have acquired their own significance. So I think for them to pull off that red Carrera glass to create a what was out of what is historically important now, I'd be surprised. I mean, I think you'd have to have a level of documentation that we would not have on that
Yeah,
building,
it's,
would be my guess.
And it's, you're talking about a major, to do with, to take it back to when it was originally built.
I don't think the images are clear enough, because I've looked
Yeah.
at them.
Yeah, I've got a few that are close, but anyway.
Because it's so ornate.
I just
you
can't
would
imagine
need-
anybody undertaking that.
Well, because it's so ornate, you need really clear images, and that building's much more ornate, and the images aren't clear enough. So that would be my guess. So that is where we are standing on all of those. So there's been a busy,
I have,
few weeks.
I've inquiries from somebody else about another one, another possibility.
y'all trying to kill me, you know that, right?
Well, word got out.
I know, everyone's like, oh, you can help.
Yeah.
What is it going to take, and maybe Emily could, what would it take to get our design review on Bank Street and Second Avenue? No, that's the city
That is
council's
a
got to do.
political process, and for political processes, you need broad-based support. So you would need support of the building owners. Now, if they're getting tax credits, they're gonna be under essentially federal design review, which makes ours look
I know.
plebeian.
Tame.
So at that point, they might say, yeah, because here's the thing, those buildings would be eligible for tax credits again within 10 years, but you have to have a district. If you're losing district integrity, then you
So I
yank
want
that,
you to come speak at Rotary and
yeah.
anybody else got another
So-
group you want?
Yes, she does need to.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring her there and get her connected with Gay in the morning,
Yeah.
and then,
But
you
you-
know,
you
somebody,
need-
Kiwanis.
I mean,
Right,
the-
I'll speak to Herman, I'll talk to Herman about one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the
It's
basic
the,
way to look at it is
barbershop.
it's
Yeah.
almost like an
Barbershop.
endangered species. You have a certain amount, and if you tip over to extinction, we don't bring it back.
I know.
At that point,
Yeah.
it's gone.
No, that was interesting at our.
Yeah, I think pressing the case at
retreat.
Rotary and Kiwanis is gonna help a lot.
Yeah. But I mean, we're getting a lot of, and I think part of it is I don't think the community understood the money in the buildings they were tearing down.
Yeah,
Every time one of those buildings came down, you lost not only 45 cents of a rehab budget on that specific building, but you start to unravel the
Degrade
edges of the
entire
district.
district.
So then it starts to spread. The more and more you get, it multiplies. It's kind of an exponential process. And I think for some people, they couldn't, you do need economic circumstances to pick up. We have that now, but I think for some people, it is a challenge to see what could be. And I think it works best, I always try to meet on site with the building as opposed to having them in the office, because I think it's really helpful for them, for me to walk them through, and things like with the Skykes building,
And
they were very
point out-
dismissive of the Carrera Glass, one of the developers I talked to, and I was like, no, like, this is a huge deal. Like, there's only one place in the US you can get it, you know, the Princess has it, it's pretty uncommon now. This, you know, it's looking a little worn on the edges, but you have to imagine what this looks like cleaned up, what the story is that goes with this, what it showcases with these steel industrial windows, and where you go from there. Or the tower building, like, you know, this is like your Mad Men building.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is, you need your martini
Well,
bar
it's
in this
just,
building.
at the
So.
time of the tower building, at the time of that remodel, it was, when they opened, there was a TV station there.
It's a big
This is
deal.
like the dawn of, you know,
Yeah, it is a huge deal.
big time TV in the fifties, so
Yeah.
it's
So,
it's
it,
very
Eric-
significant.
absolutely.
Eric Carl, are you not from here? It's some children's program.
Benny Carl.
Benny Carl.
Eric Carl was a very hungry caterpillar.
That's right. I'm confusing my childhood now. Because Eric Carl was around when I was a child, but I was on Benny Carl.
I do think that's helping, and I've had a lot more interest on Bank Street right now than on Second, but I don't know if that's because that's where the buildings are changing over. I even had discussion with one person about the Pecan Company building, so, and I've been in probably 6 or 7 of them with investors, so.
Have you seen the second floor of that building?
Okay,
That's
I
crazy.
seriously, I saw that before I moved to Decatur, and I kept looking at it going, okay, does my kid need a backyard? What if I just bought this building? I mean, I could give him
It's almost creepy though, because it's like they just nailed
It's like
the door
they-
shut. and-
Yeah, it is amazing, the integrity
All that
on that
millwork.
second floor, because I talked to a developer about it this morning, and I said, just so you know, it has so much integrity that will be carefully watched in the process. Having said that, do you know how many people would give a body part to have an apartment that had all of those details? Like, it is
Crazy.
stunning. It's the most intact.
This is the second floor of the Sykes building?
No,
The
the
building
Pecan
with the
Company
pecan.
building.
Companies, yeah.
It has the Victorian screen, the lace
You
on
know,
the
the
interior,
boarded
that
up, it's
fretwork.
where the stairs used to go up to the
Yeah,
second floor,
it's
it's been boarded up.
And I think there's,
No, the Roxy's over there where,
yeah,
where Mutual Savings was.
but
later.
it has all of the Victorian, the Queen Anne sort of gingerbreading lace work between the doorways, where you have those wooden screens.
Oh, my gosh.
Panels.
It's got none of the woodwork's been painted.
Wow.
It is, yeah, it is
It's
absolutely, because I mean, I literally, I sat up there and I'm like, okay, well, I could give my kid half an upstairs to just run in, right? He doesn't need grass. I could just buy, he's only gonna
Take him to the dog park.
No, no, literally, it was the most gorgeous. I just sat there and thought,
There's Fraser Park.
yeah, that could be the most exquisite space, in the right
Anyone working
hands.
on Inglis House?
Hmm?
Inglis House building, you know, the, used to be the lamp store and.
Yeah.
Someone
initially-
purchased that, and they were supposed to do, my understanding is that they're
That was
just,
the trick, yeah.
it's on their horizon, but they have other projects they're working on first. Because that is, if the person, I'll be honest, I never know with developers because things can shift really fast, or things can shift after, but my understanding was the developer that purchased that is one that I was already doing tax credits with. He had me look at 6, he purchased a couple, but I don't know if he still holds that one. He could have
It's like,
since sold, yeah,
where are
it's
my
like, yeah, they
priorities?
move
What am
things
I gonna
around.
do first?
But I got the sense they were very interested in that one, but they have other,
Cause as far as intact spaces, that initial. that
yeah.
main-
Well, and then it has the 1950s upstairs that you just
Yeah.
need to put the
Wow.
mounted fish on the wall, and
Yeah.
you're in Minnesota, so, it's well done,
Paneling,
so.
crazy.
Any
Okay,
questions?
anything else? I'm gonna adjourn us for our shortest meeting that I've ever attended.
I move we
Dodie made a
adjourn.
motion, who's second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? What, y'all don't wanna stay till 8?
Yeah.
Okay,
I just found a bunch of pictures of you in the junior league.
I will see y'all next month.
And you haven't
Thank
changed.
you very much.
Your hair's a little bit different color, but
Call you.